There is no part of this planet that hasn't been poisoned by Europeans. Did you know that Britain ran torture camps in Kenya in the 1950s? And the part that gets me is this isn't obscure history. This isn't ancient. This happened while some of our grandparents were alive, even in our parents' lifetime. And nobody taught us. So here's what was happening. Kenya was under British rule. And rule sounds clean until you look closer. Land was taken, movement was restricted. Kenyans were forced to work land that used to belong to them. Meanwhile, the colonizers got farms, security, and legal protection. Black Kenyans got passes, curfews, and punishment. And after a while, people said no. That resistance became known as the Mau Mau uprising. And let me be clear, this wasn't chaos. It was people trying to get their land back, their dignity back, their lives back. And Britain didn't answer that with reform. They declared a state of emergency and started sweeping people up. Not just fighters, entire communities, men, women, teenagers. People disappeared overnight. They built a system, detention camps, forced labor sites, and emergency villages surrounded by barbed wire. More than 1 million Kenyans were forcibly relocated into those villages. Hundreds of thousands passed through detention camps. No charges, no trials. And inside that system, this is where my chest tightens. People were beaten, starved, worked until their bodies broke, sexually assaulted. There are documented cases of severe sexual torture, including genital violence and mutilation, used to force confessions or compliance. And Britain called this rehabilitation. I want you to hear that word because it matters. And what's almost as jarring as the violence is what came after. Survivors told their stories for decades, and Britain said that didn't happen, there's no proof. You're exaggerating. Files were hidden, documents were destroyed. People were treated like liars for remembering their own pain. That kind of denial has to mess with you. It tells you that your suffering doesn't count unless the powerful confirm it. It wasn't until the 2000s, that survivors took Britain to court. And suddenly, records appeared. Thousands of documents, detailed reports, internal memos showing officials knew exactly what was happening. In 2013, Britain finally admitted responsibility. They apologized. They paid compensation. Not because they grew a conscience, because the evidence made denial impossible. I'm telling you this because there are still some people that romanticize empire. They talk about the British Empire like it was just railroads and order and civilization. And I'm like, order for who? The Mau Mau weren't villains. They were people who refused to disappear quietly. And Britain didn't leave Kenya because it felt generous. It left because resistance made empire too costly to maintain. So yeah, Britain ran a system of detention and torture in Kenya. They denied it for half a century. And the survivors had to force the truth into light themselves. This isn't ancient history. This is living memory. And once you really sit with that, it becomes hard to believe that empire was ever humane.